Does high early cash value result in weak or weaker long-term cash value? Meaning, if I design a policy where I have a minimum base premium and rich cash values right off the bat, does that mean I'm going to have less cash value over the long haul? Well, the answer is no. Now, we hear this quite a bit. There's a reason we're doing this video, and you likely have heard it as well. I heard it all the time when I was first in the industry designing policies on the individual side of the business, and I always dug into it and thought it was wrong. But then, as I got into the corporate side of things, seeing how corporations, big companies design policies, and banks for that matter, how they design policies are always for rich upfront cash values. But I will state, as a corporation, they do not sacrifice the long-term performance for the immediate upfront cash value. They don't. And the thing is you or I can design a policy in a very similar manner to that of a corporation. So why do some believe this? Specifically, why do some individuals believe that if I go with the higher base premium, less cash value up front, that I could potentially have more long term? Well, it has to do with the base premium, how dividends, the surplus, everything above the guarantee are applied to base premium dollars and PUA dollars. We've done a handful of videos on that, the one-year term rider. We'd certainly refer you to those if you'd like more information around that topic with the details. But here, first we're going to demonstrate an example. So let's take a look here. So again, the question is, if I take more cash value up front, does that mean I'm going to have less over the long haul? Because that's what we hear sometimes. So this is a policy based off of an illustration, present 2020 dividend rate. So we're not looking at history yet. So 2020 dividend rate, what we have is a 35-year-old male. And what we're going to look at here is first, as aggressive as this particular insurance company will allow, 1090 split, compared to a 3367 split. Okay, so 50K per year. This would be the same, by the way, if we paid in 5K per year or 500,000 per year. Very, very similar if we move the zero or the decimal in one direction versus the other. But what do we see? 1090, clearly right off the bat, I paid in 50, I have 44 versus a 33% base. Not quite as much. 1090, breaking even between years 4 and 5. So I've got more cash value up front, more money I can use right off the bat. The trade-off is what? The way we had to design these policies to ensure a mech never occurred, death benefit. The 1090 gives me less death benefit right off the bat. Meaning A, if I need more death benefit, I either want to add term to this for a short period of time or a separate term policy, or I need to design the policy differently. So if death benefit's a concern, I've got to look at that and ask questions around it as well, or we need to provide information around it. But focusing on cash value, I've got more upfront over here. Now, to touch on this, because I mentioned we covered this in an earlier topic, money can go toward the base premium or it can go directly towards PUAs. That's where we can direct it. That's what these splits mean. So for example, a 1090 split of $50,000, 10% of $50,000 is $5,000. 33% of $50,000 is $16,500. Small term riders attached, the rest then goes into PUAs. Okay, but I have a higher base premium here. What happens, if you've seen any of our design videos, with base premium dollars during the first and second year of a life insurance policy? How much of your base premium shows up in cash value? Zero. The insurance company overcharges me for the death benefit up front. Beginning year 3, specifically with this policy, you will begin to see your base premium dollars come back to cash value. Whereas PUA dollars, PUA paid up additions, you will see the premium deposit show up in cash value, and it will buy you what's called paid up additional death benefit. It does buy us some life insurance as well, which is why we see these death benefits increasing at a fast rate, which is nice. But the breakdown here, again, going back to the original question, remember what that was? Why do, or I should say, Does a higher early cash value result in less cash value long term? No. But why do some feel like that? That was the follow-up question. Here's why. And we've got a lot more content and specific case studies in our membership program on this. But under our annual dividend column, what do you notice here? Beginning year 2. What do I have a higher dividend payout on? This is the exact same insurance company, exact same product, same age, same out-of-pocket. This is where life insurance gets so interesting. I've got a higher dividend on this example, but I have less cash value. $20,000 less to be exact. It's a big difference. What happens as time progresses? Let's go down to year 10. What do I notice? Still have a higher dividend. What do I have more cash value in? This column here, by the way, cash value difference, I'm just going to tell you the quick answer. The minimum premium policy has more cash value all the way through. What is so interesting, though, is if you were to analyze the dividend column, the higher base premium policy, the 33%, has a higher dividend. So I had more money from start to finish over here. And by the end of 30 years, about $45,000 more. But call it $50K from start to finish, and it grows from that point forward. Why do we sometimes hear this can potentially deliver greater cash values? Here's why, is what an individual is doing is looking at the dividend and saying, hey, if dividends go back up, because eventually they have to, right? Yeah, eventually they have to. I'm 32 now. In speaking with larger insurance companies, individuals high up at these carriers, they feel that for the next 10 years, dividends are not going to increase. They're going to remain level or they're going to decline, which would favor this more. Beyond those 10 years, they didn't give an answer, which I don't blame them. But eventually, will they come back up? Probably at some point in time. However, that is, in my mind, hoping that eventually things are going to turn around and this will produce more cash value. Right now, this definitely does. But these are illustrations based off of this company's 2020 dividend rate. Do higher early cash values result in stronger long-term cash value? Dividend rate. How about the guarantees? You know, when you look at the guarantees, it actually makes things more favorable towards a minimum premium policy. So when you look at, again, companies, corporations, they are focusing on the cash value as an asset on their balance sheet. They have a specific goal with the death benefit as well, if it's built in for cost recovery, whatever it might be. But here we're going to look at the guaranteed values. So this is just a flat guaranteed rate, gross rate of 4%. Lower premium. By the way, the guarantee is applied exactly the same on base premium dollars and PUA dollars. Which, if you haven't, and this is kind of a side note, if you haven't had a chance to view our podcast, depending if it's uploaded by the time this video comes out, with Scott Witt, brilliant actuary, knows cash value life insurance in and out, how he recommends policy design, I would highly recommend watching it. It's our first podcast as we went into this a little bit. We didn't go into it a whole lot. We will in future podcasts, but he's a good resource. If you're interested in talking to an actuary, he is the guy to reach out to as far as maximizing cash value policies and many other services. He always lets me know that. Okay, let me get everything captured here. So, break even based on the guarantees, delayed compared to the dividend, year 10. Break even with the 33% base premium is when? Highlighted in yellow, year 15. Now, what's the cash value difference by year 15? Based off the guarantees, exact same product, same design, not trying to manipulate numbers for one to look better. Well, I'll tell you a quick side story is Policies with higher base premiums, for the longest time, I would try and say, hey, how can I make these potentially look stronger? Because they pay a higher commission. So I was interested in that, but it didn't, you couldn't do it. Not sleep at night and do it. Let's put it that way. So it's like, you know what, it doesn't work. Let's try and build the business similar to Amazon and build it off of volume. Anyway, now I'm talking about business. So I'm going to continue on here. As time passes, these are non-MECs based off the guarantees, midpoint, values, current dividends, all that good stuff. Look at the difference now. It's not $45,000, much more significant. Which, is it wrong to look purely at the guarantees when making a choice, a decision? No, not at all. Most companies do deliver above and beyond the guarantees. Your 4 major mutual companies, in many cases, always do. But if I'm making a choice and setting my expectations based off the guaranteed values, is that a good idea? Yeah, I'm putting myself in the perfect position to always be happy when I see greater cash values come back as opposed to what was projected on the guaranteed values. Interesting, isn't it? You can tell I like this stuff a lot. So that was a 35-year-old male. We did the same or a similar case study for a 50-year-old male with a different insurance company and different split. And these splits were really requests from individuals that view our channel and reach out. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. 1090 split, OYT, stands for 1-year term. We did do a video. It's called blended OYT, blended PUA, full transparency, where we went into a lot of detail. This is a 25-75 split with a standard 7-year term rider. Same thing, like look at year 10 here. Higher dividend for the first 10 years with the 25-75 split. So what that means, 25-75, 25% base premium, 25,000 in base, 75,000 in PUA, approximately. There is a small amount that goes towards term rider. Same thing over here. This company actually lets you carry a 9% base premium. But break-even point, you see the difference. More cash value early. So original question, does having more cash value early on result in less long-term? If dividends go up, maybe, right? Do you want to purchase a product on maybe? I don't. That's why we always look at the guarantees as well. Time passes, what do we see? Similar trend here, right? If you go 40 years, I mean, he's pushing 90 years old. You might say, hey, 90, like, come on, who cares? But well, let's look at 90. So you got 114,000 more. Now, to do the same thing, let's look at the guarantees. Some viewers will love this. I like going through this piece. Is here with our 1090 split. We have OYT, 1-year term rider with the maximum charge. So that is 1 year renewable term that increases each year as we grow older. Again, I'd refer you to the OYT full transparency video, because what happens with those riders is as I add funds into a whole life insurance policy, my whole life death benefit goes up and my term amount goes down, and therefore my costs decrease as well. And or I can just chop it off after year 7, partially or fully. But looking at the guarantees here, so we're looking at a worst case scenario, no dividends, maximum allowable charge. Here's how it works. 25-75, standard 7-year term rider that is dropped after year 7. This one we had to keep on for 10 years. Guarantees, which one gives me more cash? Time passes, which one gives me more cash? Year 40. And this would be the same thing if we continued to pay premiums in the policy or funded for a shorter period of time. Main thing to demonstrate here is going back to the question, does having more cash value up front sacrifice long-term cash value? Based off the guarantees, no, not at all. Based off of present dividend rates, no, not at all. Based off of, dividends potentially going up in the future, Maybe. Let's continue on. So here we go. The argument: if dividends increase, the base premium receives a higher dividend percentage. Higher surplus is credited because the base premium is more sensitive to dividends. That is true. Now, with that said, this is where I'm very, very big on not looking at what we just looked at, which is current illustrations, looking at actual historical performance. How many times have you heard me talk about the 4 major mutual companies? A million times. Like, Steve, shut up, that's enough. And I tell myself that sometimes too. My point, why I'm so big on them, is they've consistently showed, hey, here's our actual proof, policies that have lived the test of time, not just projections that show good numbers. And this is, call it more of a personal thing I have, is in the insurance industry, in a previous video we touched on this, it's very common for a company to illustrate values and then the actual values produce lesser numbers. They underproject, consumers unhappy. Hey, I thought I was going to have this much money. It didn't happen. That's why it's good to look at the guarantees, but that stuff happens. So I look at it in the respect saying, okay, who's actually delivered? Who consistently does it? Who do actuaries prefer that understand the industry, which is pretty rare, but that's why I mentioned Scott earlier. Point being is who's actually delivered. That's why I like those bigger mutual companies that have displayed and disclosed the proof of performance. Some they have on their approved material. Some are policies that we had put in place or we were able to obtain from policyholders from a long time ago. And we have it from those 4 companies. But back to this point, argument, if dividends go up, the base premium receives a higher percentage, which means your cash value could be greater over the long haul. So go with the higher base premium and take less up front. I'm like, no, like you got to show me some proof, because this saying right here, just like the illustration, is all hypothetical. Look at the actual data. And this is historical policies. You know, going back to the 4 major mutual companies, there we go. Going back to the 4 major mutual companies, we talk about them all the time. I do, because again, I've seen the proof of concept, proof of performance. Historical policies, not illustrations. I've seen policies with some of those larger companies that are 20 years old that are barely past break even and barely hit 1% as far as the internal rate of return. Not designed well at all. So that happens, that exists out there as well, which throws another monkey wrench into the equation to know, hey, I got to make sure I design this properly. And then you see these policies that have just crushed it over time, which we're going to show a quick sample at the end of this video. My point to this is that policy I mentioned, it's one specific that comes to mind, but we've seen several, of a policy that was issued about 20 years ago. It was 18 years ago when I ran this study with one of the major mutual companies, 100% base premium. Dividends were projected to show these great values. Hey, it's going to be great. Under-delivered, performed, or produced values very close to the guaranteed values in reality. Then we take corporations that do the opposite. They stuff their cash value, and we see those cash values continue to produce high values. It was consistent. We do it for individuals, did it for myself, and it produces, it works. So, to bring up what I just deleted. Higher base premium. Here's what you get. Weaker guarantees. That'll almost always be the case because the guaranteed rate is applied in the exact same manner to base premium dollars and paid up additions. Less cash value up front. Non-guaranteed dividend is potentially higher than, or higher in respect to cash value over the long haul. So if dividends go up, there's a chance you might have more money long term. Even if they did go up, it's going to be 30 to 40 years. And the thing that I discount all of this is it's all hypothetical. There is no proof out there that we've been shown, and I do like to look at actual results, not just hypothetical, which is why we have actual performance poor. Continuing on, minimum base premium policies, or call them max funded policies. Exactly what we do for corporations, what I did prior to owning my own business, and what we do now with the corporations we work with. Minimum premium, strong, I should put strongest guaranteed values. Maximum upfront cash values. Non-guaranteed dividends are still paid, potentially less cash value in 40 years compared to this one. But here's the key on this. The actual performance is the strongest. So going back to the beginning, do high early cash values sacrifice long-term performance? From an illustrative standpoint, call it a hypothetical scenario, it's possible. In reality, when you look at real data, policies that have lived the test of time, which we have a lot of these on our member, behind our member wall or membership program, whatever I'm supposed to call it, excuse me, is in reality, the minimum premium policies we see consistently deliver much stronger cash values. And that's what we're interested in. Real performance, not hypothetical, because if I show someone numbers that hypothetically look great and they under-deliver, who are you going to be upset with? The agent or the insurance company? Me or the insurance company? The insurance company. I'm sorry, me. I completely messed it up. You're going to be upset with me, the agent. Where if it performs at a high level, if we've set it up for optimum performance, now we're in the right position where we can actually thrive with the policy. So let's look at one more thing here, because I keep talking about actual data. And again, we have it in our membership program, but I can't just talk about it and not show anything. I can't resist the urge. So here is a case study with a policy that we had actually put in force. I put this in force back in 2014 with an individual, really nice guy. Now, he lump sum funded the policy. He also made a big catch-up payment. So going back to the MEC laws and such, remember the unused MEC space rolls over year to year. So he had received an inheritance, received some money. He made a big lump sum payment. He's got a base premium of about $2,100 at this point. That's all he's paying. At one point, he dumped in, it was between $45,000 and $50,000, a big catch-up contribution made up for lost time, for lost MEC space, unused MEC space, I should call it. That's a big reason why you see a $2,000 premium going in here, year 7, or $2,100. And look at this, he's got $105. He obviously has not paid in $2,000 for 6 years to get that much. He started out with a lump sum and then just pays the minimum thereafter. You know, he had some money, but nice guy. He's a teacher, does some other things as well, but primarily a teacher. And this is the actual performance, actual IRR. This is pulled directly from the insurance company's ledger, which again, on our other program, we can go into detail on that. But we see the cash value growth over time based off the present dividend rate, cash value increase, actual internal rate of return, not hypothetical. What I really like to do is say, okay, if we take everything moving forward, let's pretend the company stops paying dividends altogether. What's the guarantee look like? Guarantee only, to try and make things not look that good and weird like that. No MEC, nothing like that. Definitely won't MEC either, because his plan was not to max fund for a long period of time. He just wanted to do that in the beginning. Oh, and if he wants to continue to add more, he can. There's ways to set the policy up to do that. Guaranteed cash value increase over time. So this is assuming if the company just strips dividends altogether, doesn't pay them anymore, what would he get? So I forgot to put an IRR over here. Actual IRR, this is the annual. There we go. The nice thing is here, that's showing in a worst case scenario. From day one, it's done much better than that. But that's kind of a preview or sample of the kind of stuff we have in our other case studies. Anyway, know this was a lot of information. It's a really interesting question, you know, when I start to dig into it and see how everything works. But If you have any follow-up questions or like more information, feel free to reach out anytime. As always, I hope this helps, and we will talk to you soon. Hey guys, Steve Parisi here. If you enjoyed the content you just saw, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for future videos. If you'd like more information or to see some custom policies for yourself, feel free to call or email our offices at the contact information below.